Okay, good afternoon, everyone. To colleagues, please ensure you are on the SID meeting in eScribe to request your to speak or to vote functions because they won't work otherwise. So I'm going to call the Sustainability, Infrastructure and Development Committee meeting to order. I will now call on Julie Hale to regional. I don't know, you're not the clerk, you're the deputy clerk, to conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig. Present. Councillor Erb. Present. Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Gowing.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick.
Present.
Chair James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett. Councillor McCabe. Present. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Ravanovich. I think he's just switching to online. And Councillor Wolf. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge that the land in which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Chinanton, and Neutral peoples. We recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land. We honor their historic and ongoing contributions to our community. We honor the land, the water that sustains us, the air we breathe, and Mother Earth who provides for all living things. As we move on these lands, may we do so with respect, recognizing the deep cultural and spiritual connections Indigenous peoples have to this region and beyond. Okay, so I will like to ask and look for unanimous consent for a motion to reconvene and open. Do I have a mover? Councillor Fox and seconder, Councillor Erb. There's unanimous consent for that. Okay, so we are reconvening. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Wolf?
Yes, I had a pecuniary interest during the closed meeting on the airport.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rodriguez?
Yeah, I'll declare on TSD TRP 26007. Thank you.
Okay. Which report is that?
Street design guidelines.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, presentations. We have no presentations. Delegations. I will now proceed with delegations as listed on the agenda. I would like to remind all the delegations of some of the guidelines for participation. If you are attending in person, please proceed to the podium when you are called upon to speak. I will note that we now have a new accessible podium that can move up and down, and lowered and raised using the buttons on the right. If you are attending virtually, please turn your microphone and camera on when called upon. You will have 5 minutes to speak if you registered before the deadline, 3 minutes if you registered after. When the light on the podium turns yellow, that means you have 1 minute remaining. When the light turns red, that means your time is up, and you may hear me give you a reminder of your remaining time. Additionally, some general reminders: if you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it would result in an immediate removal from the meeting: interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, turning your camera on at inappropriate times, any hate speech or defamatory comments. And one last thing, if you do not hear questions from councillors, sometimes we're processing, may take us a bit, or we may follow up or request for follow-up with information after. That being said, I am going to call on Ian McLean, President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. You have 5 minutes. Ian is virtual. There you are. Hi, Ian. Yeah. Good to see you.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. I want to speak just very briefly. I'll keep under the 5/3 minute mark. But I did want to talk about the consideration for the Waterloo Regional International Airport and the future for the airport. I think I would start by saying I think that this council and previous councils deserve a lot of credit for having made significant and serious investment in the airport. There is tremendous support amongst the business community, and not just my chamber, but the Cambridge Chamber, Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, Communitech, Explore Waterloo, for the importance of having a highly functioning and effective airport, specifically and especially as we continue to grow. We know that over the longer term, Pearson Airport will increasingly be difficult for domestic flights and for secondary markets, and we're well situated for the investments that the region of Waterloo has made for Waterloo Region International Airport to be not only beneficial for us, but for the broader Southern Ontario and GTA area. Investing in the airport, as you know, in the previous plan, in runways, ancillary buildings, terminals, training facilities, has been essential in increasing both traffic, scheduled services, but also seasonal tour flights. We know we already have the biggest airport, a pilot school in North America. Tremendous opportunity for us in both aerospace and in providing service to not only business but to for citizens of the community. So we've come a long way since 2017. A growing water region needs more scheduled services and to truly be a community of convenience and significance as we're growing towards 1 million people. The airport is core infrastructure now and is directly related to success in both investment and job creation. And a world-class community like Waterloo Region needs and deserves world-class infrastructure. So whether that's transit system and LRT Phase 2, whether it's the intermodal of all-day two-way GO service between here and Toronto and beyond, roads and the improvements in Highway 7. The airport is part of that core infrastructure now for economic vitality and growth. And so I encourage you to continue down the path of wise investment for the future and thinking ahead to how the airport can serve bringing those jobs of the future, the high-paying, high-quality jobs that will sustain our community. And I'll just finish by saying I do believe that an airport, an international airport that connects us to the world, is vital to our future. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we at the chamber, but I think in the broader business community, are huge advocates of the importance of the airport and the work that both staff, Chris and the gang at the airport, as well as regional council, have put into supporting this infrastructure. And we encourage you to continue down that path.
Thank you, Ian. I have no questions from council. You've convinced us. I would agree it's vital for our community, and thank you for the work that you all do advocating to ensure our businesses remain sustainable in this region. With that, thank you, Ian. We will move on to our next speaker. Michael Drucker, Board Chair, Tri-Cities Transport Action Group, TriTag. You have 5 minutes. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of council, my name is Michael Drucker. I'm here on behalf of TriTag, the Tri-Cities Transport Action Group. It seems to be on. How about this?
Yeah, just raise it a little higher. There, you're tall.
Is this better? A little bit? Okay, let's try this. Okay.
It works. Thanks.
Madam Chair, members of council, my name is Michael Drucker. I'm here on behalf of TriTag, the Tri-Cities Transport Action Group, to speak in support of the Region Street Design Guide. In order for people of all kinds to get around their neighborhoods and cities by walking and biking, we need streets that help them to do so. Helping to get more people walking, biking, and taking transit allows our region to grow without growing congestion and helps people to stay more active and healthier. It means our community is more accessible to people who can't drive or can't afford to drive for all of their trips. Now, the region's previous street design guidelines had the idea of including space for active transportation, particularly for biking, but only on some of the streets, and it didn't go too much beyond space for biking. The new design new street design actually focuses a lot more on safety and the quality of infrastructure as well. So that's something we really like to see. And so in the new guidelines, we see really great progress, good iterations on different ways to make our streets safer and more inviting for people to walk, bike, and take transit. Now, I want to talk a bit about some of the highlights from the design guide and some of the areas that could be ripe for some improvement. Apologies, I did not have slides ready early enough, and so I have pictures, but I will talk through them. So one of the themes that we see in the design guidelines is designing for safety. So this shows up in a few ways. One of the biggest ones is physically separated bike infrastructure. It's really hard to overstate this because of how big a change this is. I think everyone by this point knows that on-street painted bike lanes are not inviting. I would never allow my kid to ride in one of those, and it's a complete game changer to have protected, safe bike lanes. And so seeing that prioritized as a baseline is great. There's intersection design treatment that helps to make intersections safer by design. So better angles, curbs to protect active modes of transport, reduce curb radii so cars slow down when taking turns instead of speeding up. There's really interesting elements like continuous sidewalks and bike lanes across minor side streets. That's something the City of Kitchener has been doing. It will be great to see that on some regional roads. And there's prioritization of active travel modes rather than them being an afterthought if there's space available. So that's key if we want to get more people walking and biking. And finally, in terms of the design elements, is designing for physical street design that helps drivers drive the intended speed instead of just relying on speed limits is great to see. The guide has a pretty strong preference for one-way bike lanes on urban roads and streets. And I would like to suggest that this is something that may work better on busier and more narrow corridors. The idea is great, which is that one-way travel reduces conflicts with other road users. But for that to be true, people do need to treat them as one-way. But here in practice on wide roads, I don't think people are going to cross to the other side to use the correct one-way bike lane. And so maybe there's ways for us to get there incrementally, but I would encourage the region to really consider how much success we've had with multi-use paths. So there are roads that didn't even have sidewalks some years ago, and they have now multi-use paths, regional, suburban, arterial roads that are just transformational for the ability to use bikes to get around some of the longer distances in our region. And so that's something that is extremely pragmatic, works really well until some threshold of travel volume. And so I would encourage the region to be practical in applying these things in context. I would also say clearance in the winter is a really important aspect, and which kind of infrastructure can be better cleared is really helpful to selecting the right kind of infrastructure. A couple of other points I'll go through quickly. I'd like to see a bit more about safer crossings of some of our bigger roads more often and how we design for that, especially 4-lane roads, not really feasible to cross as is. I'd like to see more about how we design roundabouts. So maybe at the conclusion of the pedestrian roundabout safety pilot, that we figure out how to design roundabouts more safely for walking and biking. To sum up, we welcome the perspective of streets being not for maximum throughput of vehicles, but for the mobility of people and for access along those streets. We'd like to see a way for us to, for the region to work with the cities to expand and adopt the guide and figure out ways that we can grow our network to reflect some of these design elements, not just as we go along reconstruction projects, so that people can make whole trips on better infrastructure.
Okay, all right. Your 5 minutes is up, Michael. We do have some questions. Thank you, Chair Redmond, you're up.
Michael, thank you for coming in. It's not exactly what you're speaking about, but you must have chosen your T-shirt on purpose, Ionized Waterloo Region. Can you just talk about if you still ride it, and what a game changer you feel it is for active transportation and people getting out of their cars.
Thank you. Just to clarify, you're asking about ION as in respect to walking and biking?
How much the LRT has changed how we move within the city in intermodal transit.
I think that the biggest change that ION enables is it enables us to concentrate land use in a way that can be served by transit. And so by allowing us to grow more densely around transit, it means things are closer together, and that in turn means people are walking and biking more. It's not that people are necessarily making multimodal trips, though that's true as well, but it's that there's just a lot more things that become more possible to get around on foot, especially around some of the bigger transit station areas. And I think that's starting to be reflected in data. So people are choosing to walk more in station areas because there's more to walk to. And I think that's a really important aspect.
Thank you very much.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks, Michael, for coming in today and for, your continued work on, holding us to account and always encouraging us to do more on transit and to, for others in the community to use the multi-use pass and the transit services that we have. You mentioned about pedestrian crossings, particularly on regional roads. Did you have some thoughts on what you think would be a better way to approach that, or do you have specific areas in mind?
I acknowledge thank you for the question. I acknowledge it is a challenging topic because it's a lot of work to update some of these streets. But I think you can picture an example is the crossing of the Henry Sturm Trail of Westmount Avenue. It's a 4-lane road. There's a little tiny median island. And there's 2 lanes of traffic, busy 60+ km/h traffic on both sides. It's not a safe crossing. I know the region recently put in a pedestrian signal on Weber Street in Waterloo, and that's an example of something that can be done. I think the broader point is there's a mismatch between where are the places that people may need to cross on foot, and you can kind of see this where we have bus stops on both sides, but there's no way to get from one side to the other. And then where are these safe crossing points? Sometimes maybe that requires going above or below the road. Other times we need to figure out what is the strategy for crossing a multi-lane road. I think we have pedestrian crossovers working quite well for narrower roads, but for arterials, I don't think that works, and I'm not sure exactly, but that's something that if we put our minds to it, we can figure out how to add more crossings without hampering the functionality of the roads as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you make a really good point. The area you referenced in Waterloo, if I'm recalling the one, we had a signalized crossing put in place because it was really close to Elizabeth Ziegler's school. I think that's the one you're referencing. And so, yeah, really, it was partly to try and kind of unlock the latent demand of other people that would walk, particularly young kids, but it was unsafe to walk across across Weber Street on their own. So I take your point on where are the more walkable areas and how we should think about that maybe a bit differently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I have no further questions. The report's coming up later, so thank you for taking the time to come in today. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to item 7, and that is the consent agenda. Do I have any request to remove items off of the agenda? Councillor McCabe, Councillor Saladin. Councillor McCabe, which items?
Thank you. I had a couple questions about the year-end population report and I think it was just the year-end operational report.
Okay, so we'll pull that. Councillor Saladin?
I'd like to pull 7.2.2, which is the township transit strategy, and then 7.2.4, the street design guidelines, please.
Apologies, Chair. I also had a couple questions about the The regional economic development strategy.
Okay. The street design is 7.4.2, and then 7.4.1 is the economic development strategy. So just to confirm, the reports that are being pulled are 7.1.1, the year-end population, 7.2.2, the township transit strategy, 7.2.3, the maintenance requirement, no, not that one, sorry. 7.4.1, the Waterloo Region Economic Development Strategy, and 7.4.2, the street design guidelines. Okay, so I will need a mover for the rest, Councillor Wolf, a seconder for that, Councillor Erb. Okay, you will be prompted in e-scribe for, I'm approving the consent agenda, and then we're gonna discuss the items pulled. Yeah, I'm in favor. Okay. And Councillor Shantz, are you still with us? Yeah. You're in favor? Okay, so that is carried. Okay, item 7.1.1, the year-end population. Councillor McCabe?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was curious about the numbers in this report versus numbers I've seen previously around GRT's UPass, because the number of students is quite a bit different. Like in the year-end, the 2025 year-end population report indicates there's about 34,300 students. And in a UPass GRT report, I've seen indicates that in 2025 there were 62,000 students, and that estimated for 2026 there'll be 57,900 students. So I'm just curious, how many students actually live in is the 2025 year-end population saying there's 34,000 students who live in the region and the rest are traveling back and forth, or what's the difference between those numbers? They're quite different.
Okay, Commissioner Regier, you want to respond?
Yes, we have Ryan Pugrisba, who's our manager of growth management and analytics services, who can respond. Ryan's team is responsible for assembling this information, and Ryan, over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the difference between the two numbers, the number that transit uses is the number of full-time students that are enrolled at our local institutions. The number we put into the report is the number of students, the number of additional students that call Waterloo Region home at the end of the year. So we know that there are a number of students enrolled in our local institutions that already lived here. It's children that grew up here, they went to high school, and then they were approved to go to Waterloo or Laurier or Conestoga. We don't want to double count those students because they've already been counted through the census. We also have a provision of students that are commuting. It's largely the part-time students, so they wouldn't be captured in the transit number, but we also exclude those numbers because we know that at the end of the day, they're going back to Guelph or to Stratford or to wherever they are commuting from. So the number that we show in our report is the net additional students that call Waterloo Region home at the end of the year.
Okay, sorry, I'm a little, so there's 34,000 students who live here? Or is there 34,000 students who commute here? I'm not sure. I mean, I assume it's live here.
It's live here.
So we're saying there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 22+ thousand that come in and out?
So it's a combination of commuting and students that would already reside in the region. So students who live with their parents, they would have already been counted through the census, and we don't want to double count
Okay,
those
I see.
students.
Okay, I got you. Okay. All right, thank you very much. I just, population numbers, particularly as we go through some of the well, anything we do, but particularly with the water capacity issue, it's really, I just really wanted to make sure I understood what we were looking at in terms of those students. Thank you, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Commissioner Regier, I do have a question around something in the report that stuck out to me. It said in 20, I guess Stats Canada in 2021 reported an error in non-permanent resident counts across Ontario. Is that 45% error like overages, or do you have any information around that? Because that 45%, as said in the report, represents a significant error rate.
Yes, through the chair. So this was a number that was released by StatsCan. It's a federal number, nationwide, and they've suggested that in the 2021 census, they underrepresented the international students by roughly 45%. We don't know how that is divided provincially and then locally. We just wanted to highlight that the feds did note some errors in their own calculations, and that they would be looking into this and would be rectified through the 2026 census being collected right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, the new census is out, so we'll get that information in a little bit as well. Okay, so that report was for information. There was no recommendation there. The next one that we will be speaking to, I think that was Councillor Salonen, 7.2.2. Do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I appreciate that we have not yet gotten the funding and hopefully still will get the funding for the rural transit strategy. I do, however, have some concerns with the delay until fall of 2027 in the event that we may get some funding, and really in particular looking at our already existing routes both in Wilmot and Woolwich, and the expansion that we were looking for more evening and weekend services. So I'm curious if anyone on staff could speak to possibly expanding those in the fall, what that cost might include, and hopefully the funding comes in before then. I'm just really concerned of waiting another year and a half, when certainly I know Wilmot Council was excited about it, and our business community in particular really has a need for more transit. So hoping somebody could speak to that.
Through you, Chair, I can start, and if we need more details, I see Doug's around. And we've had that conversation with our area municipal colleagues. I think there could be an opportunity to do something earlier than fall of 2027. So that's true. The report talks about a full 1-year deferral, but there might be an opportunity for spring of 2027, for example. If we have the funding announcement by the end of the year, we'd have time to establish the, to build interest in the line, so it's successful kind of right off the bat. There are some technical questions we have to figure out with the ministry, because there's a 5-year countdown. And at first they're going to provide 80% support, and then it goes down. So there's a bit of, when does that, if we start with part of the program immediately, does that start the countdown right now, or can we kind of differentiate depending on what is the starting date of each type of service? So whether it's an extension of hours of regular routes, or the more on-demand, the newer kind of systems that were. So there's a few technical pieces that we need to adjust. I would say it would be very challenging to do it for fall of 2026 regardless, because today we are in this is the time when we should be recruiting operators and training them for the fall, and we don't have that provincial decision. January is not a good time to start a new service, but I would say today the report talks about fall of 2027. We could definitely look into spring of 2027 if we, hopefully we'll get some good news from the province early on the funding, and then we can accelerate that and do that in particular for those fixed routes, which are a bit of an easier implementation than the on-demand piece.
Has there been any funding set aside for expanding those, or was the expansion solely based off of this funding stream?
So the expansion was really based on the funding stream from the province, especially in the first year.
Okay, so the 20% that we would be picking up of, because they'd be giving us 80%, that couldn't cover the first few months in the fall to, like, in particular, I'm really thinking about Route 77 because also we wouldn't need to hire those people since it's contracted out to Voyago. You can get back to me offline if it requires more investigating, but really just want to advocate for, I know our businesses in particular really need to be able to move staff both to and from the city. So if you could even just give us an update.
Yeah, we'll take it back. And I know we've had conversations with the BIA in Wilmot too. So we appreciate the interest and strong support of the of the business community there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair James. I a while back had asked about the possibility of expanding the taxi coupon program to the township residents. I'm not sure if staff are still working on that. I thought it would have come back by now. Is there a sense of where that's at?
Just waiting to hear from Doug Spooner. Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Check. Great. Councillor Hunick, thank you for the question. So, Council, you will remember the taxi coupon program we used to call Taxi Script allows customers to buy a book of effectively taxi rides at a reduced rate. So, Councillor, we've been looking at this one from a region and GRT perspective. We could expand the use of taxi coupons out to the townships. That's not a question. That's a quick decision we could make. The challenge is going to be, as you can imagine, those distances are significantly greater. And so there is a possibility that customers could move through that taxi coupon book very quickly, right? So if you were taking an inner city taxi ride of about $10, that's a really good product. If you were taking a $70 taxi ride, we're going to get through those books very quickly. So what we've been looking at, you will recall, we had extended the number that customers were eligible for in a year from 20 books to 30 books. So we're having a look at that and really trying to figure out what is the best customer offering that provides an opportunity for taxi rides, but that a customer is not going to burn through the entirety of their allotment within the first month.
Thank you, Director Spinner. The very reason that I'm asking is because I know that the rides from the townships are larger, and so that would be why to offer any taxi coupons whatsoever, but I appreciate that you're looking more in depth in this, and I will be excited to hear back when we hear back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was a mic drop.
Okay, Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair James. I just really want to underscore some of the comments that Councillor Salonen was making to say that we are really disappointed. I know my township colleagues will agree. I think it was at Roma that we put this presentation forward. And one of the reasons why the bureaucrats on the other side of the table got so excited representing the province was the fact that this is diminishing funding over time, and we had a plan that was sustainable. And I just want everybody to cast their mind back to an earlier meeting we've had this morning when we talked about budget. And those are the kinds of things that over time just continue to add to the tax burden on residents, and this plan did not do that. It was sustainable over the long haul, so really disappointed the funding hasn't come forward yet, but do recognize that the whole premise was that we would be able, was it 5 years or 8 years? 5 years? 5 years, that we would be sustainable at the end of it, but we need, show us the money.
Thank you, Doug, and there's no further questions regarding this report. Or Councillor Wolf?
Through you, Madam Chair. Well, we've got Doug Spooner at the podium, and it's sort of about this, but it's about the free day for seniors, which is coming up, and I just wanted him to let the public know when it's coming and how they can get on board.
Through you, Chair, a little bit of a sales opportunity, and thank you for that. So, Council, as you know, you had approved a seniors pilot for rides on GRT. As you also know, that free day once a week for older adults over 65 will start July 1st. We're very excited to roll it out. We've got a pretty comprehensive plan about both the marketing materials for awareness, but also in-person visits and some support, libraries and community centers to help get our older adults signed up and using that. We'll also at the same time explore eligibility for the Affordable Transit Program. So if we have older adults who are also eligible for that program, we'll get them signed up and really help to get towards that first ride, which we know is so critical. So again, Councillor Wolf, the thing that this program really does is it breaks down two immediate barriers. One is it gets somebody taking their first ride, and two, it makes sure they know how to pay, and in this case, that they can do that for free. We've been able to do some unique stuff with the application. We'll be able to do age verification through the phone, so we won't have to have people coming into our customer service locations, but we still want that high-touch, in-person support to make sure that our older adults can get signed up and using the system. And just because I know it is a bit of a criticism of the way we're going to roll this out, we will be tracking the number of older adults who are ineligible because they do not have a smartphone, smart device, so we'll be able to report back on that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, 7.4.1, Councillor McCabe, the Waterloo Region Economic Development Strategy. Questions for staff?
Yeah, thank you very much, through you, Chair, and thank you for the information and the report. I just had a couple questions about, one's about talent attraction and retention. I was just curious what it's kind of looking like out there, given the ongoing geopolitical challenges that we're facing. Are Canadians returning from the U.S.? Are they not? Or, sort of generally what's happening on the talent? Are we able to keep some of our grads from some of the universities and colleges here? Like, what's just sort of generally happening on that front?
Through you, Chair. Thank you for that question. I'd say the Waterloo Region Active Working Group of area municipal staff and Waterloo EDC, and also other partners like the Workforce Planning Board and others, I think we're trying to monitor that as it's ever changing. One of the comments we do continuously hear from, let's say, our manufacturing sector, for example, is the importance of the visas, for example, for skilled trades, but people coming into the country and trying to get them placed into positions. So there seems to be this continuous challenge that we've seen for a long time here in the community, where there are people with skills and connecting them into the right positions and making sure they have the right credentials, and again, if they're newer to Canada, making sure they have the right work permits, work visas, that type of. So that's a major challenge that we continuously hear from small to medium-sized enterprises, for example, in the region. And then other challenges around that is we do continuously hear about the skilled trades issue that, again, primarily affects our manufacturing sector. So it is kind of ever changing right now. On the tech side of things, I'd say we'll have to check in with our partners at places like Communitech and the Accelerator, but I would say that they are also, I think, considering a lot of the tech companies here are startups, for example, and medium size. They're also having some challenges with regards to talent attraction and retention. I have not heard through any of our work to date that the current U.S. issues are really affecting, I should say, there's the talent retention, let's say, like after someone, let's say, graduates from university, or existing people in the tech sector looking to leave. I'd say we haven't heard much commentary on that. So that's something that the Area Municipal Working Group is continuously trying to monitor, and what we can do and what we plan to do, that group will do an annual update on each of the pillars for the community, and there will be specific commentary on talent attraction and what progress and what challenges the region is seeing on a year-to-year basis. So we'll have more information on that coming soon to the community.
Okay, thank you for that. And then kind of pivoting from that, you mentioned manufacturing and technology, but advanced manufacturing, I think, is the amalgam of both, and we know we still have a strong sector locally. And so I'm just curious what's in the strategy in terms of additional, like addressing some of the challenges that sector particularly has. I was in a meeting was 2 Fridays ago with the former minister, Carolyn Mulrooney, president of the Treasury Board at the time. And the topic of conversation was, she was curious about what was going on, particularly with advanced manufacturing. And I mean, one of the things I continually hear when I do go out and meet with business owners or go to some of the companies is that they need a place or a location that they have like a collaborative working space, so to speak, where they could test and try new products and development. So I'm just curious what's in the strategy that might or where sort of your staff's heads are at with respect to that kind of need. That, I mean, again, I hear continually.
Councillor McKay, we just want to summarize the question. So is there something in this strategy specific to what Councillor McCabe is speaking about? If you could just answer that, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, I wouldn't say there's something specific because on that in the strategy, but definitely around things around access to capital and infrastructure, equipment that are needed to help specific sectors grow here. We have heard that. Again, keep in mind, this strategy is meant to just coordinate essentially all the efforts of the area municipalities and Waterloo EDC and others. And so there are specific, in some of those strategies, specific action items to help out small to medium-sized companies, in particular in the manufacturing sector. And so that is something that we do have some staff and from the working group looking at right now is, are there opportunities where we could have those shared facilities for companies who need access to specific equipment in the manufacturing sector? So that's something, again, we can report back to the community on after we look into that further, but that is a current action item that we are looking at with, again, some of the area municipal staff.
Okay, thanks. It's good to hear because it feels like there's a real opportunity out there on that respect. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, so there is a recommendation with this. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor McCabe, will you move this? I need a seconder for that. Councillor Rodriguez. So just to confirm, the recommendation is that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo endorse the 2025 Waterloo Region Economic Development Strategy as outlined in the report on June 2nd. So you do have a mover and a seconder. You will be prompted in e-scribe for this. Councillor Harris, are you there? May not be.
Good morning. I'm a yes. I just can't get it up here on the line.
Okay, so that is carried.
Yeah, that's all I
The
can say.
final report that was pulled from the consent agenda is the.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is the street design 7.4.2. Councillor Salonen, you had questions for staff. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. First off, thank you very much, staff, as you guys did incorporate a lot of the feedback, and that was noted when I was reading through it, so that's really appreciated. There were a few areas I had some questions. One on the rural urban roads, I didn't see anything at all discussing parking, but that is and I could have overseen it, but in the design guideline part, I didn't notice any prioritization of parking. I recognize that's not the same as what we're looking for our urban cores, but that's pretty fundamental to our economic viability in our rural main streets. So wondering if anyone could speak to that, or if it is somewhere else in the report that I just missed. That would be my first question. I have a few more though, so I can keep going if you'd prefer me to ask all my questions first. Yeah, okay. The other one in the decision-making tree on page, or triangle, whatever you want to call it, on page 71, wondering if we could maybe have a different one for rural. Because again, I would say commercial and in particular agricultural traffic in our rural connectors in particular are a lot more high priority than the bottom rung of, or second to bottom rung, as even defined in how you guys note that it's for moving people and goods and services, our connector roads. So again, I think just having it reflect a bit more in a separate decision tree. Again, I would just say the one that's currently there is a bit more urban focused, which makes sense for some of our roads. Happy with the multi-use as the preferred option in rural, which is great, but also wondering in the guiding principles, again, really seems to be urban focused and kind of talking about what our urban cores look like. And I feel it's just lacking some rural, and considering you guys have all of our main streets in our rural townships and most of our connector streets. Was really hoping that there could be a principle that acknowledges that rural is different and that we do have focused priorities on that. So if you could speak to those, I'd really love, if possible, to have that referred back. Those updates maybe come for final approval at council at the end of the month, but wondering if you could address any of those questions.
Through you, Chair, thank you for your questions, Councillor Salinan. I can start, and maybe I'll ask Jeff Keyworth, our Manager of Transportation Planning, to give a bit more detail. Just on the parking piece, I think it's again, it's not prioritized. I think the approach that we've tried to take is that it's highly contextual. So it's really, I would say, the needs along rural main streets really depend on what kind of main street you're trying to constitute. So that's that's more. I'd say that's a bit more location specific, and so that's why there's no kind of underlying principle there. Although parking is mentioned as an option, but it's not prioritized in the cross section. With respect to, I think the general, I think we've tried, and we're happy to see what we can do to enhance that. But I think the team has done really a lot of work to highlight the importance of all these rural connections. So we do have, I mean, it is a simplified sets of categories there that we have. So we've tried to reduce the number of categories to a smaller number to make things just a little bit more easy to understand, especially for the broader public. I think we have tried to highlight some of the specific needs in rural areas, including horse and buggy, which has definitely improved significantly since we brought this report in January, and acknowledging the agricultural use of these roads as well. So I would say I thought we had reached a sweet spot. I'm happy to take that offline if there's things that we can do to improve it before we bring this back to council. I don't know, through you, Chair, I don't know if Jeff Keyworth can add anything more specific to that.
Hi, thank you very much. Through the chair, I would agree with Commissioner Getzke's summary of the work that we've done on the street design guidelines. Certainly, I think the most important thing to point out is that the street design guidelines are sort of a living document in the sense that staff, through continued application of the guidelines to future projects, we can be tweaking the guidelines and bringing future updates to council. So this is kind of like a 1.0 version, maybe from the draft that was seen in January. We have taken a lot of feedback with respect to the rural designs, as Commissioner Getzke noted, so I won't go into those too much. Certainly around parking within rural Main Street areas, we allow parking. It's just that it's not a prioritized function along regional roads, and basically within the rural hamlets in particular, there tends to be a limit on the amount of space because the roads tended to be laid out relatively narrow when they were originally planned. And so in order to prioritize all the users of the space and achieve a balance, we are looking at permitting on-street parking, but not necessarily prioritizing it.
So I guess that's where my issue lies. And I fully understand that. And like I said, I'm really happy with the changes you guys have made. I'm not talking about my hamlets or the hamlets across other rural municipalities. I'm talking about our downtown streets, which are regionally owned. So I can't in Wilmot go and make the decision with my council. We need parking to be part of the consideration as a prioritization. So a simple way, and I'm not asking you to go out of the way and redesign this because I think you guys do have something really good here, but in the general width allocation properties, to me, or priorities, sorry, to me, you should have a spot for parking everywhere except for the rural main streets. You put not applicable, but for the rural main, as you have your little dots, but for rural main streets, that really, I'll even compromise on a should, but to me it is really an area that should be considered as must because it is our economic downtown cores. And I don't want to leave our businesses with no opportunity for people to get there. I get that there's some people who can walk, but also we have communities dispersed all across our townships that rely on the services, and not just the businesses, but we also have healthcare on our main downtown streets, that those people rely on that parking. I understand that right now you currently allow it. My concern is that this guideline doesn't speak to it being an actual function that's required on our main street cores in rural areas. So I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying I disagree fundamentally. Having street parking in our downtown cores is actually a requirement in our settlement areas, in our rural main streets. Again, not asking for this on the main street of Kitchener. I'm not asking for this out in Shingletown. I'm asking for this in Baden, New Hamburg, Elmira, Ayr. These are all priorities, and Wellesley Village. These are all priorities for our small settlements to have successful businesses, and parking is already a hard thing to come by. And I don't want to put forward a guideline that does not have that acknowledged really explicitly, because right now, this entire room, including staff, understand, yes, we do allow it, but as this grows beyond all of us here and staff changeover and council changes over, I don't want that to get lost by not being included in the guideline. And suddenly we have an issue where there's a road design going, well, it's not in our road design guidelines, we don't prioritize it, and we can't get downtown.
Thank you for the comment. If I may, through the chair, just to address one part of that, a number of the township roads within the downtown areas of Wilmot, such as Baden and New Hamburg as an example, a number of the roads are actually classified as urban Main Street, not rural Main. And there is a difference in the treatment of on-street parking and loading with respect to urban Main Street classified roads and rural Main classified roads. So I hear the general comment of the importance of on-street parking with respect to your communities, and so we will respect that and certainly, reflect that in designs as we apply the guidelines. But I wanted to just be clear that, or to ensure that there's no misunderstanding that there's a good number of roads within Wilmot that are classified actually as urban Main, and they have a different treatment with respect to on-street parking.
Okay, I would say making that a lot clearer, because that is not how it's read in this document currently. I understand that you're interpreting it differently, but yeah, if that could be made really clear, and I would still ask if in your little charts you could have parking as a should item when it's brought forward to council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sullivan. And yeah, if there is something that needs to be clear, that urban, I think that is critical in this. So if that could be added to ensure that it is considered urban in rural township communities during main streets, I think that was a good point of reference that was brought out there. I have Councillor Foxton, you're up next.
Thank you, and it is a beautiful document, and I'd love for one of our main streets to be able to handle that. But if you look at Wilmot, Wellesley, and North Dumfries, our main streets are surrounded by water, by the Nith River, and each of us has very limited space because we have great waters on either side. Also, it's a flood. If they flood quite frequently, and that's one of the things with GRC. So you can't expand those roads. They can never look like the beautiful picture you did. Never, because unless you make everything on flotation devices. Because we are water communities. We are the tributaries to the Grand River. We are the major tributaries. We are the ones that flood every year. So it's a beautiful picture. I would love to have it. It's not practical. And I agree with Councillor Salonen in that we don't have busing in North Dumfries. Our people drive. We have a large senior population. They need to be able to park near the stores to get to done what they needed to do. So it's really not practical for us, but it is absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Shantz, your question?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my East Drive. Every time I try to look at a report, it disappears on me, so I can't look up the details, but I just want to support Councillor Salonen and Foxton on the rural piece. I was trying to look at what an urban Maine looks like, and I'm not so much concerned with the picture as Councillor Salonen's comments that we need parking on our main street. So just to put that in there, and I agree with her that it would be really good to have it right in the document for future reference, even though we may all understand that here today. There'll be other people at other times. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further questions, so I just want to make sure going forward, because there is a recommendation with this. And it looks like there is some clarification that is needed before, I think with Councillor Salonen, some of the concerns raised. Just wondering if staff would be able to get back some additional information incorporated into this, especially around that urban rural Maine, and speaking to some of what was just brought up. Councillor Sullivan, I think you want to chime in here, but I think if something could be adjusted or, to reflect that for council meeting and potentially bring it back and refer this to council. But Councillor Salonen?
Yes, I was just going to suggest, if the timeline works for staff, if we could just refer it back to staff to bring back with the updated information to the council meeting at the end of the month. But I'm not certain if that fits your timelines.
Is there a critical sensitivity around the timeline with this?
Through your chair, I would say, overall, we would like to bring it back to council because it fits with the integrated mobility plan that we're starting. It fits with the other report that council just approved on the road maintenance rates. So I think we should bring it back. I understand there's a point of clarification on rural versus urban that we have to bring forward, and then some clarification on the space for parking and lay-by functions and things like that. So we can do that. I'll speak to staff and we'll try to bring something adjusted for council at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you. So
I'd move to...
You'd move to refer that to council. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gowing. Do I have can I do unanimous consent for that? You already made a comment, Councillor Foxton. Okay, well, we are waiting. Staff will come back. You'll do the due diligence you need to before council at the end of the month. So I guess, E-Scriber, what would you prefer? I'm going to defer to the deputy clerk here. Is everyone unanimous consent for referral? Okay, so we have unanimous consent for that. Thank you. Okay, that is it for the items from the consent agenda that were pulled. We will now move to the regular agenda, starting with 8.1, that is the airport growth plan. So I am going to call on Commissioner Rodriguez. There is a recommendation on the floor, so I will need someone to move it and second this at the appropriate time. Commissioner Rodriguez, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair James. Our team and I are delighted to be here after a number of years of work to share the final draft of our airport growth plan for committee and council's endorsement. This airport growth plan is a long-term vision for our airport, YKF. This is an update to the 2017 master plan that builds on its success. And the name change here from a master plan to a growth plan reflects our commitment to ready principles in our work. I will say that Council's decision to support the 2017 growth plan resulted in a number of things which the community has benefited from, including the development of additional air service and employment opportunities at YKF. So these decisions make a big difference, and the vision that Council endorses is critical to the way that the airport will evolve in the future. This plan guides our long-term strategy for YKF and its surrounding lands, which support the aviation and aerospace sector, and importantly, air service to our residents. YKF is a major economic driver in the Waterloo region, and while this sector can be volatile, as we've all witnessed over the last number of years, YKF is well positioned for future growth in this industry, and it's an industry that delivers high-paying jobs and a lot of economic value for our community. I'll now pass it over to our Airport Growth Plan team to walk you through the approach. We have the Airport Director, Chris Wood, Hilary Abel, who's our Manager of Communications and Community Engagement in PDLS, and Maria Laguna, who's our Manager of Infrastructure Financing. So over to you, Chris.
No, I don't think it's on.
I guess I can't read.
Now you're good.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Regional Council. It is my pleasure today to speak to you regarding our new 20-year plan for growth at our airport. It is a plan that takes into consideration a lot of information regarding the industry, what other airports are thinking, what makes sense, what our business leaders have told us, and what we as staff believe is the most likely scenario over the next 20 years. We want to be ready. I will, as Rod mentioned, pass things over to Hilary Abel, who will talk a little bit about the community engagement for this plan, and Maria Laguna, who will show you the responsible financial strategy for this long-term vision. And as Rod mentioned, the last plan was approved in 2017, so what you will have before you is partly a continuation of its many successes, but it's also unique in many ways. Next slide, please. We really spent a lot of time trying to answer the question, why would we do this? Well, the simple answer is that airports all over the world play a huge role as economic drivers in their communities. YKF is no different. In 2025, we measured our 2024 economic output to be $390 million, and I can assure you it has increased since then. Over 600 people work each day at our airport, and that number is about to grow with a few upcoming announcements. We have one of the country's largest flight schools and the largest university flying program. Bombardier and de Havilland are tenants at our airport, and just yesterday, a new airline named PAL started operations flying local people directly to work every day on a major construction project in Northern Ontario for the next 5 years. We continually rank among the top 10 busiest airports in the country and top 20 for passengers. With that said, if you drew a circle of 40 kilometers around the airport, there are over 9,300 people every single day within that circle that either leave or arrive on an airplane, and almost 80% of them use Toronto Pearson. London, Hamilton, Buffalo, Toronto Billy Bishop, and Detroit all get a little bit, while only 13% use YKF, which, believe it or not, has gone up more than 3 times since Flair started here in 2021. So there is a massive opportunity, because I don't know about you, but if there's an option to fly from home instead of that other big airport down the road, I will do so every time. Next slide, please. The 5 key principles of the growth plan are using YKF as a mobility hub, the continuation of the just-in-time infrastructure strategy, so-called build it when they come as opposed to build it and they will come. Environmental sustainability, supporting the aviation and aerospace community, and working to ensure aviation compatibility with high-rise development through a Made in Waterloo region solution. Next slide, please. So a key concept in the updated growth plan is to envision the airport as more of a mobility hub as opposed to just an airport. Imagine connecting GO, ION, GRT, intercity bus, and airline passengers in a single new terminal building located on the north side of the property, just south of Meadow Street. This plan explores this in greater detail. Next slide. The concept of build it when they come served us well in the 2017 plan, and we are recommending we continue that same philosophy here. We want to be one step ahead of the demand, meaning we will do advanced work like archaeological studies and design work, but we won't build until there's a reason to and funding is secured. Having a concept ready for a terminal expansion greatly helped Flair's decision to serve YKF as their second GTA airport, a decision that is still paying dividends today. An extension to our secondary runway is 100% designed, and all approvals are secured, and we are actively now searching for suitable federal or provincial infrastructure program. Next slide. Here is a look at what a fully built-out YKF plan could look like. You will notice in the top left corner where an anticipated Ottawa Street extension could connect LRT right into a new airport terminal building, surrounded by retail and commercial opportunities, as well as a direct link to a Breslau GO station just 2 kilometers to the north. A lot of work went into determining the ideal location of a new terminal complex, and this is it, for many compelling reasons. New taxiway extensions would complement the future runway extensions. The main runway would ultimately be extended twice, reducing noise over the city of Kitchener and providing some relief to airlines, especially in inclement weather. Looking at the south end, the plans call for other development opportunities, as well as the Indigenous Landscape Project, a place where First Nations can help interpret the 10,000 plus years of history on this site. We are very excited to imagine what this could look like and are assembling the right team currently to bring this all together. Next slide, please. The aviation industry is mobilizing around the world to try and tackle the problem of carbon-based emissions and how that contributes to climate change. Airports are also looking at ways in which we can support this effort, and I am pleased to say that we have been recently accredited through an airport-specific agency that hundreds of airports worldwide are part of. The journey for us has just begun, but we have committed to a process that moves us through an inventory, a goal setting, target setting, and ultimately to a mandate of carbon reduction. Any new terminal facility would be built with a net zero focus. We are also seeing how we could help the many airport tenants we have try to reduce their own carbon usage and explore big ideas like hydrogen production at YKF with the support of WISA, the University of Waterloo, Toyota, GRT, and Connect Airlines, who are all coming together later this week for the first hydrogen roundtable in the region. Next slide, please. We get calls weekly about either renting or building hangars at YKF. It is safe to say that YKF is on the map as a destination for aviation and aerospace companies to relocate to. We already have some global companies who call YKF home, with more to come, and we have many national and local companies in and around YKF that have all been brought together through the region's AeroWR initiative, co-chaired by Chair Redmond. We envision a growing cluster of companies surrounding YKF to support an OEM or other large aviation company, supported by our world-class post-secondary institutions here at YKF. This plan puts a focus on continuing the support for old and new aviation and aerospace companies to thrive and grow in Waterloo Region. Next slide. Land use compatibility is a big theme in this plan and carries over from the last plan. Airport zoning regulations have not changed in Canada in decades, even though the way aircraft navigate to airports has completely changed. More and more airports in Canada are facing challenges with incompatible heights of buildings that impact airport accessibility. This is happening here as well. We proposed a new way of protecting airports and instrument flight procedures to Transport Canada, and we are the first airport in Canada to get approval to move forward with our plans, which we are doing right now. Other airports are paying close attention to what we are doing. We have consulted with all of the affected municipalities and are hosting all of their planning teams at the airport in the near future to discuss how we can work towards our shared goals of additional higher density housing, as well as protecting our airport. And after much study, we have determined that a third runway at YKF is likely not needed in the future, so you will not see that included in this plan. I'll now turn it over to Hillary to talk about community engagement.
Thank you, Chris. Just want to provide a quick overview of the consultation that we undertook as part of this plan. We conducted 2 in-depth rounds of consultation. The first was early in the process, where we heard from community and partners about what YKF meant to them and what their experiences had been. And then again last year to test the concepts that you see within the draft plan today. We included interest holders from across First Nations communities, Waterloo region, and also Guelph. It included tenants, industry partners, the business community, passengers, and residents, and we did this through in-person sessions, smaller kind of working group sessions, open houses, and Engage Waterloo region. We had many, many responses and feedback, and what we continue to find is that there's wide community support for YKF and for the growth plan that is laid out in front of you today. I also want to share and just focus a little bit on what we hear time and time again about YKF from the community. And it's really 3 things. It's easy to use and get around. It's friendly and passenger focused. And perhaps most importantly, YKF is an important gateway for residents and visitors to connect to life's most important moments. We hear stories of people using YKF to meet a grandchild for the first time, to see friends get married, to start university here or travel home, and people returning home after long business trips when they know they're just minutes away from getting home. And also that people check off really important bucket list items from YKF as well, which is great. YKF makes it easy for these experiences to happen, and it's really important for our community now and as we grow. A full summary of the YKF consultation will be available on Engage Waterloo Region shortly, if you'd like a deeper dive there, but I will leave it there for now and say thank you, and I'll pass things over to Maria for the financial overview. Thank you.
Just lower the podium if you need to, Maria.
Thank you. Thanks, Hillary. I'll be providing the financial overview in the next few slides. They will focus on the airport plans to manage future infrastructure investments, the strategy for controlling operating and debt costs, how reserve savings are being built over time, and the key risks and dependencies associated with the long-term plan. The overall objective is to support responsible airport growth while managing levy impacts and positioning the airport for long-term financial sustainability. Next slide, please. The long-term capital funding strategy over the 20-year planning horizon relies on a combination of external grant funding, reserve savings, regional development charges, and debt financing. While grant funding is a critical component of the financing strategy, the plan also relies on the gradual accumulation of reserve balances to support future capital needs. The intent is to create a balanced funding model that supports expansion while generally maintaining levy growth at approximately 3%. Next slide. This slide outlines the airport's just-in-time infrastructure strategy. The approach is designed to ensure that major capital investments only proceed when passenger growth can justify them. There are 2 major future construction phases identified by numbers 1 and 2. Debt servicing costs, shown in orange, are reduced over time, and these savings are redirected into reserves, which begin to increase, as shown in green. The strategy also assumes that increased airport revenues will help support additional reserve contributions, minimizing financial pressure on the region. The subsequent decline in reserves after Phase 2 reflects the planned use of funds that were accumulated in prior years to support capital investment. The operating expenses, shown in blue, shows minimal increases year over year, with larger increases triggered by additional staff or FTEs only when passenger milestones are reached. Next slide. This slide highlights the airport's expense and operating strategy over the forecast period. Operating expenses in yellow are expected to increase gradually over time, with primary drivers being inflationary pressures, service expansion, and staffing, as previously mentioned. At the same time, the financial model prioritizes debt reduction. Since we are not heavily relying on debt, this results in reduced interest costs, reducing the burden on taxpayers. Another important point is the projected reduction in levy funding beginning around 2041. This occurs primarily because existing debt obligations are retired and additional contributions to reserves cease by 2041, as reserve balances have already reached the levels needed to support those future capital investments. Over the long term, airport revenues are projected to increase substantially as passenger activity and commercial opportunities grow. This revenue growth helps offset operating costs and supports future capital needs. Next slide, please. The airport growth strategy is achievable. However, its successful implementation is dependent on several factors. This includes securing external funding. Reliance on outside funding represents one of the most significant risks to this strategy. There is also exposure to construction cost escalation, schedule delays, and interest rate fluctuations. The plan must also be considered alongside other regional capital priorities and debt capacity pressures. Another challenge is that many airport projects are not fully eligible for development charge funding, which increases reliance on other sources of funding. The airport also operates within a highly competitive and volatile industry where passenger demand, airline partnerships, and route availability can shift quickly due to market conditions, economic trends, or global events. Finally, future growth assumptions are connected to broader regional growth patterns, including residential development, transportation infrastructure, and road network capacity. Overall, while there are risks, the phased and flexible approach outlined throughout this presentation is intended to help manage uncertainty and allow the region to adapt as conditions evolve. I'll pass this back to Chris.
Thanks, Maria. So as far as the next steps go, we will be finalizing the document and get it up onto the airports and regions webpage. We'll share the plan with the community and then start our further work on the decarbonization plan, the natural landscape project, the aerospace and aviation cluster work we spoke about with AeroWR, and commercial service expansion, which we hope there will be some positive announcements in the near future. And again, it's important to talk about that we will return to council with any financial needs or financial asks prior to any building. And that's the end of the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chris and team. We do have a queue here. So Councillor Hunick, your question?
Through the chair, thank you for the report. I'm sorry that I forgot to wear my YKF hat today. More than accessible travel, what I appreciate about the airport is that the proceeds that we receive help to fund many, many regional programs and services. So I am aware that it is an economic driver, and I do want to emphasize that before I ask my question. That being said, I am concerned about the price tag of this growth plan. I appreciate that this month, or not this month, this year, there's no budget impact listed in the report, but in future years it indicates $10 million per year. And so I'm just wondering, like I know you said that the economic profit has been something like 390 million or something like this, but I'm wondering if you can speak to when we start to see the profits from the airport growth plan, or where the $10 million per year is going to come from, because I think that would add up to 1.5% budgeting tax increase, and there are people around this table that would be less excited about that.
Did you want to?
So in the report, we mentioned that there's approximately 116 million of capital investments, and then that's including 2026, another 4 million, so 120 million for the 10-year capital. So I think you're doing, dividing that by approximately 10 years for maybe 12 million a year. Okay. And then that was in our approved capital budget. When we have different funding sources, that would include, there's some debt, there's also reserves from our contributions, and our development charges as well.
Thank you very much. I will let others ask their questions and maybe go back in the queue or not. Thanks.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair. And through you, building on that, on the financial side, I think this is a really exciting plan and a really great vision for the airport. But when I look at page 9 of the report, there's two things that jump out at me. One is that about 20% of this is funded by development charges, which, as we just talked this morning, is quite volatile right now. So just curious if you have any thoughts on that. But then specifically, it says the remaining 25% while maintaining is covered by the tax levy, while maintaining the region's planned 3% annual tax levy increase. And I just want to understand, and then in the presentation that was reinforced as well. Can you just, is that assuming there's a 3% expansion on the whole tax levy every year? Or can you just contextualize that a little bit more?
Through the chair, for sure. Sorry, it's 3% growth. It's an annual cap on the airport's funding requirement, so not on the entire region.
Okay, that's great. And then on the DCs, have you given any thought to the volatility there, or?
Apart from it being volatile and us not knowing anything yet, what we have in our background study and what we know as of today is that there is eligibility for some of those projects, not all of them. So that's what's reflected in our model.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And I think just in the context of the conversations that we had this morning, this is one of a handful of services that we offer that's not a legislative requirement, right? We have so many that are binding and we're required to deliver. And I want us to be really mindful of our capital on this, because that's where we're getting into these big conversations around debt servicing. And as you're very well aware, but to the community watching, this is a really exciting plan, but it's going to really count on those partnerships and service growth and finding different ways to fund these projects to make it a reality. So I just wanted to leave that out there for council to consider as we go forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Great points, Councillor. Councillor Gowing.
Thanks through you, Chair. I want to echo the last comments of my colleague. It's a great opportunity for the region itself. And as I said earlier today, I grew up on the airport from age 12 to 19. So I think seeing this and where it was and to today is just phenomenal. I have, Councillor Rodriguez asked my one question. My second question is, looking on page 14 of your presentation, when we get to 2040, the operating expenses drop dramatically. That aligns with when we are currently, we're talking about future plans to build a terminal and things like that. I don't see the connection. And what I mean is if we're going to be building a bigger terminal, being busier, more expenses, I'm very confused on why we have that huge drop in operating expenses.
Through the chair. So we build up our savings over the first 10 years. And so we have additional reserve contributions that's hitting our operating budget. When we build up enough of our savings, then we cut back on those reserve contributions. So we're hitting our operating budget less. And we are also then retiring some debt, so we have less debt servicing costs, again, hitting our operating budget less. So that's why there's that dip in operating.
And so maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that if I'm looking at this right, it goes from, I always hate when they put it in the thousands. Is that a 5 million max in 2040, or is that a 50 million? To me, that looks like 50 million. And then we drop down to 30 2 years later. Oh, I just lost the thing again. It's a huge number to drop down. Like, are you saying that we were putting in that amount of money year over year into our reserves?
I don't have that info in front of me, but I'd be happy to follow up
Okay.
with the
It's
details.
just, that's a stark difference to me. It is a huge drop in operating, and I can't see savings offsetting that.
Okay, so just,
You can get back to me,
yeah,
that's
I
fine.
think this
Yeah.
is something we'll need to follow up on. Staff, if you can get back and make sure to email kind of all of council with the response.
But I'm 100% on board with this. This is great.
Okay, moving along, Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Really excited to see the plan. I have a question compared to the 2017 plan, and I believe in that plan we had a maximum amount per taxpayer that we were going to use as a guideline for to sort of keep us in check in terms of costing. Is that still in there, or has that disappeared? Asking for a previous colleague.
Through the chair, we did the math on that, and over the 10-year, the average cost per household, I think is what you're referring to, is around $31.
And is that like the old plan had a maximum amount that we wouldn't go over, and I had in mind it was around $23. But my memory is fading, so I could be very wrong on that.
I can respond. Yeah, through you, Chair James. Yes, Councillor, your memory is correct. Our target cost 10 years ago was $23 per household. We have had a number of years where it, I think, went down as low as $17 per household. It's up over $23 per household now. But if we factor in general inflationary increases, $31 per household over the long term of this plan is fairly reasonable.
And if I can just have one more follow up on that, Chair, is that $31 sort of written in stone, or is that just what it works out to with the math today?
Through you, Chair James, this is a budget that we would be bringing back to council on an annual basis, so it's something that council will have complete discretion over on an annual basis as we execute on the plan.
Well, the answer is no. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Erb.
Thank you, Chair James. Thanks for the report. It's been clear that the work at the airport's been a long game plan, and you approved it from the plan that came out in 2017, and hopefully what you presented to us today is going to materialize the same way that it has in the last 10 years. So thank you for that foresight. I think a lot of the community doesn't realize the economic benefit that the airport provides for the rest of the region. And so hopefully the continued expansion that we're doing there is going to be more noticeable for those living in the region and will be a true economic boom. So thank you for the work you're doing and for this long range vision that you've been able to put in place.
Okay, Councillor Foxton, and then I'll need a mover and a seconder, and we can vote on this. Councillor Foxton?
Excellent job. I wish you had started from day one and showing the figures there to show the growth that you've already come so far. And if anybody had walked into that airport on day one and then walked it into today, they would be blown away. And I hope this chart comes true, because that means it's saving the taxpayer as well as being a very viable industry for Waterloo Region. This is really, really good news, even on the growth that we've got so far. It's amazing and well done, very well done.
Councillor Foxton, will you move it? I need a seconder for that. Councillor Erb, okay. You will be prompted on eScribe momentarily.
Chair, I just had a quick question. I was logged in.
Okay, your question?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm just curious, given the expansion plans that are under consideration, are there concerns or things that we need to be thinking about regarding flight paths and building heights, because we know there's, in some communities, there's been increases in heights and requests from developers for ever increasing heights. So I'm just wondering how that might impact what you're trying to do out there and what we need to be mindful of. Thanks.
You want to answer that one? That's not a finance question. Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, we are doing a lot of thinking about that. And on the presentation, you may have remembered there was a slide about aeronautical zoning, that process that we're going through right now. So we have a very good idea of where the heights need to be limited. And we are working with our municipal colleagues on the planning teams to ultimately enact those now. And we are working with Transport Canada to have those enshrined in federal legislation. So we think it's a really, really good plan that, as I said, other airports are watching closely, and we are the first airport in Canada to be given the permission by Transport Canada to zone for arrivals and departures of aircraft.
Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, you will be prompted in e-scribe. Councillor Hunick? Here. Okay. Okay, so that is carried. Moving along to item 8.2.1, the authorization to expropriate lands, road improvements, University Avenue East in Waterloo. I am going to call on Fiona McRae, the regional solicitor, to introduce the report, and there is a recommendation. I will need a mover and seconder for this.
Thank you, Chair James, and through you. This report is an application to expropriate, so it's to commence the expropriation process for lands required for a road reconstruction project at University Avenue East between Weber Street North and Albert Street in the city of Waterloo. The project will reconstruct the roads, add bike lanes between King and Weber to fill an existing gap, and will replace aging water mains and sanitary sewers. The project works will impact 7 properties. There are fee simple partial takings from 6 properties and permanent easements from 4 properties. The easements are required for the relocation of aerial hydro utility and anchoring. Construction is proposed in 2 phases, King to Weber in late 2027 to 2029 and Albert to King 2030 to 2031. The application is being made now to ensure that the lands are in hand to meet the project timing. All of the affected owners have been contacted by Real Estate Services regarding the project, the required lands, and this report coming to Council today. Discussions are ongoing between Region staff and the property owners with the goal of seeking a negotiated acquisition of the property. And again, this is being commenced to ensure project timelines are met.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner McRae. Very happy to move this and get these important projects moving. Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Erb. Okay, you will be prompted in e-scribe. Councillor Shantz. Okay, so that is carried. All right, item 8.2.2, next we have the long-term waste management strategy update. I'm going to call on Connie McDonald, Commissioner of Resident Experience, to introduce the report. I believe this is for information, so there is nothing to be recommended at this point in time. Go ahead, Connie.
Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Regional Council. We're here today to bring you an update on the long-term waste management strategy and where we're at in that process. The region is updating its long-term waste management strategy to address our growing community's evolving waste management needs and to support sustainable and affordable waste management practices. Here to present to you today is Olivia Kwok, Director of Waste Management, and Tracy Annette, Senior Engineer in Waste Management. And I'll turn it over to the team.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. There's ongoing work going on across the division that is happening in addition to our recent change to cart-based collection. This is essential to our community and how we handle our waste now and into the future. This includes looking at how we manage our garbage and organics long-term, a sustainable funding approach for our programs and services, continuing collaboration with other municipalities, and keeping up with always changing waste-related legislation. This all leads into the long-term waste management strategy, which is why we're here today. I'll pass it over to Tracy Annette, Senior Engineer in Waste Management, who will walk us through an update on the long-term waste management strategy process.
Thank you, Olivia. And I'm excited to bring you an update today on this important project for the Waste Division and all the great work that's been done to date and what are our next steps. So to date, we have worked very hard with our existing waste diversion programs and operational improvements that have helped extend the region of Waterloo's landfill lifespan. However, around 20 years of capacity remains. We know that things can change quickly, and that may affect this lifespan. Across the province, it takes around 15 years to plan for a landfill replacement or build a facility to manage garbage, which is why it is so important, and we are beginning that work now. The last few years have seen significant ongoing industry and policy changes, including the provincial Blue Box Extended Producer Responsibility Program, the federal plastics ban and plastics registry, as well as the provincial disposal capacity shortage I cited, to name a few. A lot of great work has happened since our 2013 strategy. However, with all of these changes, it was the right time to review and update our long-term waste management strategy. Next slide, please. This slide presents our goals for our 25-year framework, our mission, and our guiding principles. Our mission is to develop a sustainable and inclusive long-term waste management strategy in consultation with our community that is environmentally, socially, and fiscally responsible while meeting our current and future needs. And just a reminder to Council that the mission and guiding principles were approved by the Council in June 2024. Next slide, please. In order to deliver this project, we set some key milestones and have delivered the project in 3 phases. So being completed in spring 2025 was phase 1, which was build the foundation, where we took a number of background reports to the community, including a current overview of our waste management policies and infrastructure, where we are at with implementing the 2013 strategy, as well as conducting a needs assessment. And that formed the basis for our phase 1 engagement in the community. During phase 2, we evaluated the possibilities. So building on the feedback during phase 1, and I have a slide coming up which will give a nice summary and overview of our phase 1 engagement. We incorporated that feedback and took to the community to receive input on the options that were being shortlisted, as well as the criteria that we were going to use to evaluate. And we completed the phase 2 engagement in fall of 2025. And now we're at phase 3 engagement, which we're about to kick off in the month of June. And that will create the roadmap where we take to the community our draft long-term strategy and present to them our 20 shortlisted options and our implementation plan and receive input and make sure that we haven't missed anything in our strategy. Next slide, please. But first, it's important throughout the process to really understand what's still in our garbage. So in order to do this, we look at it in 2 ways. First, we consider what's in our business waste. Last year, we completed a 2-season audit of our business waste. And as you can see here, the composition of the waste varies from 1% hazardous waste all the way to 42% construction, renovation, and demolition. On the residential side, based on our most recent residential waste composition studies, as you can see on the photo on the right, we have as much as 46% organic green bin material still in our waste stream, as well as roughly 13% recyclable material. So a lot of great products are being diverted, but there's still more we can and should do. And this formed the basis, along with our needs and gaps, to identify the options to go for the highest impact waste stream, material still in our waste stream. Next slide, please. So during phase 1, this is a great slide to show all the great work and comprehensive work we did during the phase 1 engagement. On the left side of the slide, there were a number of virtual workshops, there was a survey, and we did pop-up community events. And what we heard, key themes, is to really enhance our service accessibility and promote the reuse and repair, as well as to continue to promote our educational campaigns. Next slide, please. During phase 2 engagement, the draft actions were identified based on research of industry best practices and incorporating our phase 1 engagement feedback. Engagement feedback was received on 20 options that were shortlisted, as well as the evaluation criteria. A second survey was conducted, and workshops continued during this phase with internal and external advisory technical groups as well. Staff attended 8 community events in person within each area municipality to ensure that we heard from the community right across the region. And key themes heard during phase 2 engagement include leveraging partnerships, focusing on innovation and technology, education and convenience to reduce accessibility barriers, and to make sure that our options have a climate connection. Next slide, please. All of this has led to our strategic priorities, which are highlighted on the green bar, including performance monitoring, diversion and recovery, system optimization and disposal, community engagement, circular economy, and sustainable funding. And within those strategic priorities are our 20 shortlisted options. And the ones that are highlighted show those options that receive the highest community support. So for example, support new programs to divert and reuse more materials. Using data gathered from waste audits, studies will be done to identify new or enhanced programs to recover items that are going to landfill and can be diverted. Secondly, create a plan for construction and demolition waste. This initiative would develop a plan to help residents, businesses, and contractors divert more waste from construction, renovation, and demolition projects, which currently make up a large amount of the waste entering the landfill, as you saw from my previous slide. Support a program to reduce food waste and save edible food. This option involves partnering with local grocery stores and restaurants to rescue safe, surplus edible food and redistribute it to those in need in our community. And lastly, develop a long-term plan for garbage disposal. This option involves studying future options for our garbage, including partnering with nearby municipalities to find shared, cost-effective solutions. Next slide, please. Shown on this slide are the evaluation criteria that we applied to shortlist our 20 options. The economic impacts, we reviewed annual operating costs, capital costs, and the level of risk and liability. We considered social criteria and impacts, being public acceptance, whether the technology was proven or unproven, the level of effort to implement the technology or the program, as well as from an equity lens. And lastly, we considered environmental criteria, our climate and energy impacts, local environmental and community impacts, as well as we quantified the potential diversion from landfill disposal. We also considered scoring criteria, which included how much the actions cost, the risks, and the outcome for the community. Lower scores were awarded for higher costs and major risks, whereas higher scores were applied for lower costs for options where there would be a bigger benefit. Next slide, please. So next steps. Again, this month, the month of June, we're going to launch our Phase 3 public consultation, where we conduct our final workshops and our last public survey to gather feedback on the updated strategy. Then throughout the summer and the fall, our consultant will finalize the long-term strategy. And this will create a 25-year strategy building upon our 2013 strategy. It will identify possible bans, policies, and programs to reduce waste and maximize diversion. And this plan will include a high-level implementation plan for the preferred approaches. Lastly, we will bring to Council in early 2027 the final long-term waste management strategy for endorsement, and this plan will outline the resources needed to implement the plan. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Tracy, and to the team for the work to move this forward within our community. We are encouraging the community to get involved in our upcoming in-person engagement sessions and also on online opportunities on our Engage page. Visit the website for more information. And if you have any specific questions or if you have any final thoughts or considerations on the priorities, we welcome feedback through this engagement process. Please connect with us and we're happy to discuss. We also welcome you to come to our in-person engagements and our sessions, and please encourage residents to join us as well. In the meantime, we're here for any questions on the process to date and our options in the plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to councillor questions, I just want to confirm that this is for information. You're coming back to us later with the report and recommendations. I also want to take a moment and really thank the entire waste management team for all of the work, the long hours, responding, navigating changes in our system that impacted, every resident in some capacity. I don't think the team, hears often enough how grateful they are for the work you're doing behind the scenes. And I want to say I heard from members of the community directly who were, thankful for the work and recognize that this past year in the transition, it was a lot. So we want to recognize that, acknowledge that, and thank you to everyone, those in the room and those at their offices who are part of this transition over the past few months and year or so. With that, again, this report is for information. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I used to be the Vice Chair of Public Works, and at that time, Tom Galloway was the Chair. And Chair Redmond, Sandy Shantz, and anybody else that was back at that time, I believe Tom said that there was about 14 or 15 years left in our landfill. And for you today to say that it's 20 tells you we're doing something right, or things are decomposing. And that's really good news. I can't believe how great a job we've done. Can anybody today think of a time that they didn't use the blue bin? They didn't use the green bin? And would you even consider that today? So the learning curve, I think the children helped. You hit the schools first with the blue bins, and they would come home, and if they saw a parent throwing something that should go in the blue bin, you got yelled at by your children. So I think that was just great. You're doing the right things. We're doing the right things. We're doing the very best. And, clothing and all that is now going to bins to help our churches.
Councillor Foston, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say thank you, and I'll shut up now.
Councillor Hunick.
Thank you to the team for the report. I am aware, and my question is around the spacing of the recycling program. I'm aware that is now provincial responsibility, but I also know there are members of the community that are concerned that more garbage will go into the landfill, specifically because recycling pickup is no longer as frequent. Do we have the option to pick up recycling on the alternate weeks in spite of the province mandate to do it every 2 weeks?
Thank you. Through the chair, Regional Council made the decision when the provincial changes were made not to provide that service to local residents. So where this program might be provided in other communities, that was a specific decision of council not to.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't aware of that. Moving on. Thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks, staff. You make waste fun, and Waste Day was really great a few weeks ago. I think this is like a really interesting, again, I'm really hung up on like legislative services this week. This is like a core service that we provide that we need to get right. And so it's really important that we have this strategy. And I think there's a lot of unknown costs if we don't get this right. One question of context on the presentation, I forget what slide it was, but it was something like 45% of residential waste is still organic material. Can you comment on that in terms of, in my head, green bins are ubiquitous. You drive down the street, you see green bins, but could you just maybe speak to the context of that, or where we're seeing that, or where the adoption isn't as high as we might want it to be?
So through the chair, one thing I will share is with our recent implementation of the CART program, we've actually seen an increase in participation. We believe that's because we've actually dropped the cart right in front of your house, and maybe a lot of residents who maybe came from a different community or didn't use the program beforehand decided to take a look and participate. And they recognize that, hey, I have this cart in front of me now. We gave them some informational material. So we have seen participation increase. And also, in addition, we've incorporated green cart pickup for our designated downtown areas as well. So previously, that material did go into the landfill. So that is helping us keep that valuable material out of the landfill. So that is definitely something we want to continue working on and encouraging residents to participate in the programs. But I did want to share kind of some good news in the last few months of our green cart program.
Great news indeed. Yeah, that's really good to hear, and I hope we can keep that number trending downward. My next question, and Commissioner McDonald will be well aware of this question. One of the, I guess, unintended consequences of our new waste cart rollout program and the updates to downtown is that some small businesses have been sort of caught in the gray area of collection, right? There might be a convenience store with a few units above, or they're just outside of the BIA, and previously they might have just gotten collection because they've been getting it for 20 years, but now we've standardized the process, and I know a few businesses here in Kitchener on the periphery of the downtown were caught up in that. And so I guess my question to you, and I don't think this needs to be a motion or anything, but I would just ask that as you go forward in the strategy that if you have any thoughts on looking at a program that's a fee-based opt-in program for these small businesses who are already having a truck stop in front of their building or their premises, and allowing some of these small businesses to participate that might have in the past. And just if you have any thoughts on that, or if that's something you can take away as you move forward.
So through the chair, one of the learnings when we switched to cart-based collection was a lot of properties may have received collection when they were not eligible. That was because they would set out a bag and then our contractor would pick it up because they were just trying to do a good job and clear the curbs. So we have discovered some properties that were not eligible were receiving service. So one thing we are considering through the long-term waste management strategy is an option for these properties who want to participate in our programs, especially if it's the Green Cart program to divert organic waste. That is something that we can consider. It is built into the strategy. However, timeframes and actually executing the program would be up to council decision on when that would be.
No, that's really helpful, and I appreciate that context. That's exactly the kind of the use case I was thinking of, right? If there's, we're already stopping there, we're already collecting for a portion of a premises or a property, and again, if it's cost recovery or fee-based, my personal thoughts is that's great, and we could probably offer it cheaper than what the private sector would to that business. And so I guess I'll say, if you can take that away for the strategy, and if there's anything that you can do in the 2027 budget to add a user fee, that would be great, but I'll park it there for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the work as Councillor James, or Chair James had articulated. I'm just curious about going forward because I've heard from a few people who live in condos, if there's going to be a way for them to participate in the regional service rather than them having to contract private waste. Is there like an opt-in opportunity at some point being considered through this strategy?
So through the chair, with multi-residential properties and condos, a lot of it also depends on the configuration of the sites and if we can actually access the properties with our current fleet and our equipment with the carts. Also, sometimes high-rise apartments or those types of buildings may not be suitable for cart-based collection. So there may be alternative services that would be suitable for them. Through the long-term waste management strategy, there is a dedicated action about improving multi-res services that would support waste diversion. So that is one of the actions within the strategy.
Great, good to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've got two more speakers in the queue. I know we were scheduled till 4. I think we probably need about another 15, 20 minutes to get through this agenda. We're getting close to quorum, so I just want to caution everyone with that too. And there are a few people online, but I do know we were scheduled till 4. So, Councillor Erb.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Just to follow up on Councillor Foxton's comment or question. When I came to council in 2018, I thought we were talking about a 20-year lifespan of the way. Is that correct? It was 20 years back in 2018?
Through the chair, yes, Councillor, you are right. We have been reporting 15 to 22 years for a number of years, but coming out of the 2013 strategy, we really started to build a robust airspace forecast model. We've had it peer reviewed by a couple consultants several times, and we are still sitting at around the 20-year mark. So again, that's just all the cumulative effect of our diversion programs and operational improvements, and that is where we're sitting today.
And has green bins made one of the most significant differences in the capacity of the landfill site?
I would say it's accumulation of soil reduction, operational practices. We have GPS equipment. We have well-entrenched green bin and blue bin programs, as well as we've been able, on the business side of things, to do dedicated drywall programs and other programs. And hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more coming out of this strategy to divert more waste from the landfill.
Congratulations on how well the site is operated in Waterloo. I feel I should have a family membership with all the stuff I take there for my family. And there's many, many choices where you can put it. So good work.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further questions. Thank you for the report. Thank you for your work. We look forward to seeing the long-term waste management strategy come back to us. Next is item 8.3.1. That is the no right turn on red pilot. I'm going to call on Commissioner Matthew Getsky to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. So we're excited to bring back a recommendation for a pilot project to restrict right turns on red at 12 signalized regional intersections in Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. So it's both an exciting and a cautious pilot because we understand the implications and the impacts on various road users. This is really intended as a phased approach to help determine whether the measure could be applied more broadly to improve road safety across the region. So this recommendation responds to Council's direction from August of last year to review the potential impacts and implementation considerations of restricting right turns on red at locations with known collision concerns and friction between automobiles and active transportation. So the team went back and looked at collision history, pedestrian activity, right turn traffic volumes, and selected a number of locations across all 3 cities. Why cities? Because that's where most of the traffic signals are located, and that's where most of the friction is happening, more intensity in terms of mobility. But we're intending to look at the effects and then be able to roll it out more broadly. The intent is also to look at feedback from Grand River Transit. We know that this could impact also some travel times on transit routes, so we have to be a little bit careful in the implementation and continue to work with our local municipal partners throughout the pilot. The cost is not very high. The estimated cost to implement the pilot is $21,000, which we can accommodate within the existing transportation capital plan. And then what we would do is to put the restrictions in place by the third quarter of this year. It's mostly signage and local information, and then report back, take a year to have some preliminary evaluation of what the impacts might be, and then bring back a report to council, a preliminary report to council by the end of 2027. So evidently, we're not going to have a lot of collision data because that takes many years to compile, but we're trying to see with through the MyoVision system, for example, if we can get some information about near misses and some of that friction, which actually provides much more volume and statistically significant results in a shorter amount of time. So the team is there for any questions.
Thank you, Mathieu. We have a few. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair James. Thank you, Mathieu, for the report. The professional driver who drove me to council this morning was quite concerned about this pilot for the congestion that it will add to the traffic and I guess the drive time that it will increase. And you also mentioned changes to transit times. And so I wonder if you can comment on the suspected impact of the length of travel time and or the safety benefits and how those two balance out.
Through you, Chair. So I think we've been, the objective of the pilot is to evaluate some of these impacts. We've selected the 12 intersections out of, 500 or so. So it's this is not going to radically change congestion times across the region to try it out we're just trying it on a fraction of intersections today. We will measure that. The intersections have been selected so that there are no, these are not the most sensitive from a traffic perspective. But we understand there will be some impacts because that's kind of, in a way, that's the point, because there is some friction between automotive users and pedestrian users. So we'll evaluate that. That's part of the pilot, and we'll bring that back in next year. Again, we're not, given that we're only dealing with 12 intersections right now, there are no I'd say macro level impacts on the travel times, whether for road users or for transit users as a result of this pilot.
Okay, thank you. When did you say the results of the pilot are coming back to council? Sorry.
So we'll have preliminary results I think we need a year to really measure the impacts there at intersections, and that will still be preliminary because again, we don't see Actual collision results we can't see within a year's time, so we'll have some preliminary indications. If there's a significant problem at one intersection where the level of service drops significantly, we can adjust that more quickly. But overall, we'll bring that report back at the end of 27.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks to staff for bringing this back. I think this is a great report and a low-cost road safety intervention that we can do, and just to augment what we're doing with our roundabouts. A question about, I guess, generally in terms of the locations. I have no concerns. Are any of the locations impacted by transit signal priority? I think the King and Benton intersection has some in place, and it's very technical, but I just want to make sure we're not impacting things that we've already invested in.
Maybe on the specifics of that one, I'll turn to Daryl, our Manager of Transportation Engineering.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew, and through you, Chair. That's a good question. Some of the locations do have transit priority features. Actually, that's kind of helpful in this situation because it can help to clear some of the right turn queuing. But we do have a little bit of time before we're planning to go on street with this, and so the plan is to work with our friends at GRT to minimize the impacts on transit. So fully agree. We need to minimize the impacts, the investments that we've made in terms of moving our transit vehicles. So over the next couple months, and again, Matthew mentioned a 1-year timeline for the pilot. Part of the reason we'd like a year is to kind of work on ironing out some of these wrinkles as well and optimizing the traffic signal timings to make sure that transit and all the users are being served as best as we can.
Thanks for that. No, that's great. And I guess another question is just sometimes there's a lot of signage at some intersections that it gets tough to lose, or it's easy to lose what's important and what's relevant. And maybe just a piece of, if there's any way that you, as you're rolling this out, to kind of do an edit on the signage and just see if there's a way to make it so there's less clutter. Would be interesting to see if there's different things that you try of signs at driver level or signs up top. As someone who walks pretty much everywhere, you see signs get missed all the time, and especially in downtown, some of these downtown intersections or near the LRT, so I guess just a question there perhaps if that's something you've thought of, but a suggestion otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Chair. Yeah, good question. So in terms of the signage, some of it is actually legislated within the HTA in terms of the location of it. But we are allowed to use auxiliary signage to kind of highlight the restriction on the right turn on red. Part of, I think Matthew alluded to it as well, we're planning to leverage our MyoVision investment to understand the compliance rates and which locations are working and which ones aren't. So again, some of the lessons learned from this might be around sign placement. So for sure, we thought about that, and we're certainly flexible to improving signage. Not committing to too much right now, but you may have also seen in certain critical locations we've used what we call the LED blank out signs, so critical right turn on red prohibitions. So that's an option as well, but obviously we would plan to start small and see what works the best.
No, thanks for that. I'm really glad to hear that the MyoVision technology is part of it. Thanks,
Moving
Chair.
along, Councillor Gowing.
Thanks through you, Chair. So there's a couple intersections that I already know of in my neighborhood of Forest Heights, and one specifically at Greenbrook and Fisher Hallman. And constantly, if I'm stopped there, someone behind me is honking to turn right. And then I guess they don't see the sign or whatever it is. So my question is, how are we going to enforce this?
Yeah, through you, Chair. We certainly can work with our friends at WRPS on an enforcement campaign. Short of that, part of it would be, as Matthew mentioned, kind of collecting data, seeing how it's working, and potentially ramping up enforcement with time. Again, signage with a lot of things related to the road environment, signage doesn't necessarily always have 100% compliance. We know that could be a bit of a struggle. And to Councillor Rodriguez's point earlier, maybe enhance signage, certain things that we could do to potentially try to improve that, but also around enforcement, we can speak with our partners at the police services around checking how they're doing.
And maybe my follow-up to that is there a way that red light cameras can catch this. I don't know if that's part of the red light camera program or not. Maybe that's something we should look at if we're going to continue this.
Yeah, through the chair as well. There are some technical challenges around using red light cameras for this purpose, but we think it can be done. We haven't done it yet, but that could potentially be the next step. Again, for now, we're just kind of piloting, understanding how well they work. There may be an opportunity for some red light camera enforcement to help with compliance.
Okay, Chair Redmond.
Thanks. These are all good questions, but I can't imagine how unhappy people would be at our pilot project if they were getting tickets. Am I right that is MyoVision installed in these locations, all 12?
Yeah, through the chair, yes. We have MyoVision at each of these locations, and in fact, we've had to upgrade to the more modern equipment to be able to facilitate the type of data we're trying to collect. So, yeah, essentially, we're ready to go. Some of those locations we recently added the MyoVision equipment, so we're asking for a few months of runway to collect some before data. But yes, MyoVision is in place and ready to help support the data collection piece.
So I'm assuming there's been some modeling done by people that know more about traffic than I'll ever know. So I do have this concern that other people have raised about people queuing up and backing up. And Fairway Road is really, really busy. I understand that maybe not necessarily on the two locations that's been named. But I think it's really important to say that if things aren't going well, we won't wait for a year to review this. So if MyoVision's there, that can be tracked before and during. And if it's creating problems that we were not anticipating, I would expect that would come back sooner rather than later. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yeah, that's correct. We certainly have the ability to monitor it in real time to see how it's doing and tweak if we need to.
Thank you.
And through the chair, if I may add, I think as Daryl mentioned, we can also adjust the traffic signal timing. So not necessarily remove continue with the pilot, but depending on the traffic impacts, we may be able to do that. That's something that the team does on a regular basis, depending on traffic patterns. So that's something we can adjust continuously.
That's real power.
I know, that sounds great. Thank you to the team. I see no further questions. I do want to chime in here and just say thank you for looking into this and coming back with, key identified locations for this pilot. I think we're constantly trying to ensure that we have safer communities. We know that we have, looked at different avenues, some of which have been changed that are beyond our powers. But I think anything we can do to create safer roads for people traveling however ways is part of how we grow with care. So thank you. I'm excited. Hopefully this passes with council and we can get at least a pilot, track the data, and know kind of, where to go from there, and utilizing their partnership with MyoVision and WRPS if required. I think it helps out in the long run. So with that, I think Councillor Erb, you said you'd move it. Councillor McCabe, you said you'd second this. Seeing no further questions, you'll be prompted in e-scribe.
Chair, are there still members of council online?
Yes, there are, and I'm not seeing my e-scribe up just quite yet, so.
I'm just curious if we have quorum.
We have quorum, barely.
I just have something I'm committed to being at, and I'm wondering if I leave, if that is a problem. Okay.
Councillor Harris, are you in favor?
I am, thank you.
Okay. So then that is carried. There is one more item on the agenda. It is for information. We are currently at quorum, and there's nothing to vote on. So The next item is the GRT fare strategy. I'm going to have Doug Spooner introduce this report and presentation for us.
Through you, Chair Council, we will be quick on this one, but it is a big and important presentation. As you know, the gross budget for GRT every year is approximately $232 million. We fill in a bit of that gap on cost recovery, and we do that in a few different ways. One of them, we receive $14 million in support from the provincial government through the gas tax program, $8 million in regional development charges, and we generate $52 million at the fare box. Which leaves us with a net levy impact in 2026 of $156 million. We are going to focus on that fare revenue number of $52 million today. Council, I want to remind you as we talk through this of the commitments that you have made on affordability in transit. We extended the transfer window from 90 minutes to 120 minutes to allow people to complete trips. We increased the number of taxi coupons that our Mobility Plus customers could purchase. We increased the Affordable Transit Program discount from 50% to 55%, and we have introduced pilots for both not-for-profits and older adults. And we at GRT want to make sure that we continue on this affordability track, but we also want to deliver on the promises of the GRT business plan. So to walk us through our fare strategy, I'd like to introduce you to Maggie Kerr, one of our project managers at GRT and the lead on our strategy.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon, Chair, members of committee, and members of the public. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I'll go to the next slide, please, and I think we'll actually just skip over this overview just in the interest of time and dive right in. But as you are all well aware, in public service, and particularly in transit, we're constantly balancing multiple and sometimes competing priorities. You know, on one hand, we're striving to provide a system that is equitable, affordable, and accessible to all residents. At the same time, we need to ensure that the service is frequent, reliable, and convenient enough that people actually choose to ride it. And all of this must be delivered while generating enough revenue to offset a portion of our operating costs, minimize pressure on the tax base, and maintain that world-class growing transit system that we're proud to have today. The challenge is that decisions made to support one priority often create a pressure on the other, which is why a fare strategy is so important today. Its purpose is to provide a more intentional and transparent framework for balancing these objectives, supporting both community needs and operational sustainability, while moving towards a fare system that is more stable, predictable, and aligned with the long-term vision for transit in our region. Next slide, please. So why is a fare strategy needed today? And in simple terms, it's because GRT's current fare structure, combined with rising subsidy pressures and increasing operating costs, is creating financial strain on our long-term sustainability. One of the most significant drivers of subsidy pressures is the growth of GRT's Affordable Transit Program. This program has been so extremely successful in improving access for income-eligible residents, as it's now supporting over 22,000 participants. Since 2021, participation has grown approximately eightfold, which far exceeds the initial enrollment projections. While this demonstrates strong program uptake and clear community value, it also creates increasing subsidy pressures. Additionally, although our GRT fares are posted at $4 cash and $3 digital, the average fare paid across the system is actually only approximately $2.12 per trip. So this really highlights that fares are already significantly discounted through program uptake and our existing fare structure design. When we compare ourselves to other peer transit systems, we also see that GRT fares are among the most heavily discounted in our sector, which I'll speak to in a bit more detail in the next slide. But before going there, I feel it's also important to emphasize that service expansion requires investment. A stable, intentional fare strategy will help us offset the service costs of the initiatives that have already been approved through the GRT business plan last year, such as the Highway Express Network, for example, which is estimated at approximately $4.5 million annually at full service. Next slide, please. So as I just mentioned, as part of our initial kickoff for the fare strategy, we completed a peer analysis where we reviewed more than 20 peer neighboring transit agencies. This analysis really showed that GRT currently offers one of the deepest stored value discounts in the market. In this chart shown here in front of you today, The horizontal axis shows the discount applied to tickets, or in our case, stored value fares, compared to cash fares, while the vertical axis shows the number of monthly rides required for a pass to break even. At GRT, stored valued fares are discounted at 75% of cash, so $3 compared to $4, whereas the peer median is approximately 87%. Along with one other agency, this proves that GRT offers the largest discount among comparators. At the same time, our monthly pass remains generally aligned with industry norms, breaking even at approximately 35 rides per month compared to a peer median of 34. So taken together, this suggests an opportunity to better align stored value pricing with peer systems while continuing to support fare products that encourage frequent use, particularly our monthly pass that support both loyalty and ridership stability. Next slide, please. So building on these findings, we are developing a multi-year fare strategy that moves us towards a more intentional and sustainable approach to fare setting. Rather than relying on larger reactive fare adjustments, the goal is to shift towards smaller, more predictable changes over time. A key focus of the strategy will also be simplification, with the goal of streamlining the fare structure to make it easier for customers to understand and to navigate. Importantly, affordability will remain a core principle. We're going to ensure that assistance is continued to be directed where it has the greatest impact in a way that is both equitable and financially resilient. Finally, the strategy will also look beyond traditional fare revenue. We will be exploring modernization opportunities and alternative revenue sources that can strengthen the long-term resilience of the system while supporting continued growth. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we are outlining key focus areas that will be reviewed as part of the fare strategy. You're welcome to peruse these topics at your own leisure, but maybe for interest of time, I will leave it here. But I just wanted to point out that the scope of the fare strategy will extend well beyond base fare pricing, and it will include a full review of fare programs, institutional partnerships, fare technology, and broader revenue opportunities. Next slide, please. So ultimately, the fare strategy is intended to support a sustainable reinvestment cycle for transit. The goal is to generate approximately $1.5 million in incremental annual revenue through a combination of the areas that were shown in the slide before. Importantly, this revenue is not an end in itself. It is intended to be reinvested directly back into our GRT transit system. That reinvestment supports service improvements and advances priorities identified in the business plan, including customer service, reliability, accessibility, and network growth. As service improves, we expect the system to become even more attractive and easier to use, which then supports increased ridership and retention. In turn, stronger ridership generates additional fare revenue, reinforcing the system over time. So in this way, the strategy is designed as a continuous cycle that you can see on the screen here, where investment improves service, improved service drives ridership, and ridership supports further investment. Next slide, please. So to conclude, we have identified the next steps that are required for developing and implementing the fare strategy over the next year. Throughout the rest of 2026, we will continue to focus on the technical work, which includes the financial modeling, ridership analysis, and the evaluation of all fare options. This will be supported by engagement with the public, both riders and non-riders, and other key stakeholders to ensure that the strategy reflects a broad range of perspectives. In early 2027, preliminary recommendations will be brought forward through the annual plan and budget process, followed by a comprehensive report to council with final recommendations for future years. So overall, and in conclusion, this work is really about positioning GRT for long-term success through a fare strategy that is simpler, more predictable, better aligned with peers, and capable of supporting continued investment and growth in the region. That concludes the presentation and the report that's in front of you all, and we welcome any questions that committee may have.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair James. Director Spooner, I have one question on two items. I think you know what they will be. Where are we at in terms of implementing the universal pass for high school students across the region? And where are we at in terms of implementing tiered ATP. And if you want to refresh my council colleagues and the community on what I mean by that, it would be so great.
Through you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Councillor Hunick. So high school UPass. Council, you will recall we have done an initial agreement with the Public School Board here in Waterloo Region for what are called magnet programs. So those are for students who don't go to their own home-based high school. There's now a program where they get a GRT pass in order to make that longer distance travel. We continue in discussions with both the public and the Catholic School Board. I think there's an opportunity there. Obviously, most transportation provided to high school students today is done by Yellow School Bus. We've got a pretty comprehensive network out there, and so I'd be happy to start moving more high school students. Discussions ongoing. Councillor, in terms of tiered ATP, a little bit of a different discussion. And so as we work with our community services partners who actually help us deliver the ATP program, we've identified a pretty unique challenge. So as you know, in order to be eligible for ATP, we use the StatsCan market basket good measure. So that is roughly today about $33,000 to make a single individual eligible for the ATP program. If you make less than that amount, you are eligible. However, as we know, for some on OW or an ODSP, the total amount of money that you would receive in that program is sometimes in the range of $13,000 to $15,000. And so while a 50% discount is great, we are exploring if there's an opportunity to tier that discount based on, again, that T4 and that eligibility. So that's in play in the strategy along with the list of items you've seen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for this update. Building on our conversation this morning around transit and our budget pressures, I'm really glad to see this come together. Would you call this, like, one of the intentions of this to be a ridership growth, like to drive ridership growth? Would you indirectly classify this as that exercise?
Through you, Chair. Councillor, great question. And put simply, yes. Council, we look at something called elasticity all the time. And so elasticity is, I could sell 5 at $10 or 10 at $5. I'd end up with $50. But in transit, we want the ridership, right? And so looking at that in terms of what is a fair increase that'll, deliver fair value as what we deliver new services in the business plan, but not drive people away from transit. The goal is to have people ride on transit. So absolutely a goal of the strategy.
And I guess just my follow-up and perhaps a question or request is that, as we go through future budget deliberations, especially the 2027 budget, do you see an opportunity to include some more financial information about any proposed service changes that, other than this is going to save $1 million on the operating budget, but this is what it could do to ridership, or this is what it could do to our network performance, and this is what it could do to our long-term goal? Do you see being able to get to a point where we can make those data-informed decisions at budget time?
Through you, Chair. Councillor, it's a fantastic question. I think yes, we have the data available. I've got a fantastic data team. Maggie can obviously put it together and we could share it with you. I think the challenge at plan and budget is just the volume of information, the amount of time we have together. So I could think through ways to get that to you in advance or some ways to make sure that you have that available to make the right decisions.
It's almost like you were tuned in this morning. As I said, we needed to pull some of this transit discussion out of budget day so that we can engage the community, have those conversations with people like TriTag who are still here, and really get the word out, and so that we can have those conversations outside of the whole budget process. I think we'll go a long way. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. And, it all looks good. We just need to ensure that we get to where we need to go. And I think compared to 4 years ago, we've come a long way. So thank you for the work. I have no further questions. That was, I think, the last item on regular business. Okay. Oh, okay. Information. The council committee tracking list correspondence is received for information. Any other business? No other business. The next meeting for Sustainability, Infrastructure and Development is August 11th, 2026. I now need someone to move that we adjourn. Councillor Gowing, Councillor Hunick. Can I get unanimous consent for those of us left? Okay.
Yes, you have that.
We are adjourned. Okay, everyone. See you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.